We've just been told you messed up.
You messed up, casters. Yeah. What are you doing? Let's take a look at the guys' picks and bans. Of course, GeorgeC's opponent is TingTing, another regular in the UK Hearthstone scene and the Premiership over here. And we've got, okay, Priest banned on one side, Rogue banned on the other, Druid, Warrior, Paladin, Druid, Priest, Warlock. Okay.
Yeah, very, very strange decks. I mean, from GeorgeC, I can kind of see where he's coming from. Either if it's a Zoo, which at this point I'm more expecting it to be, or a Control Warlock, which GeorgeC is kind of more favorable towards. So I guess it could be either at this point. But from TingTing, the Warrior instead of the Rogue is really not something you see all too often. It's usually, if you're replacing the Rogue, a Tempo Mage or I don't know, a Hunter maybe if you're a bit of a weirdo. But the Warrior, I don't know if that means it's a Pirate Warrior because you're replacing an aggressive deck with another one.
No, come on. I want to see some Fatigue Warrior. Let's go. Yeah. We've got N'Zoths. There's been Combo Giant Warrior. There's just Mill Warrior. There's all sorts of Warrior decks that can be. Come on, TingTing. I believe. I want to see something a little bit different tonight.
Why go with N'Zoth when you can have N'Zoth's first mate? It's like, why have Falcone when you can have his first mate, his absolute top mate? You know?
Anyway, we've got Druid on both sides, as is totally standard.
Yeah.
What do you think about the Priest ban?
So, GeorgeC banning the Priest, the thing is, that probably leads me to believe that it's a Control Warlock over a Zoo Warlock, because although the Zoo is a fairly aggressive deck, I think you're probably looking at a better matchup against Priest, because most of the Control Warlocks, especially the ones that GeorgeC has tended to favor over the last couple of weeks, where it's Stonehill Defender and just every piece of removal you can possibly have.
The problem is that the Control Warlocks have the things like the Giants, the Lich King, all of these huge minions that just get annihilated by Anduin. And then when it's one hero power against the other, I guess the Warlock's essential output from the hero power is 6 damage total, because you deal 3, you heal 3. The problem is, the Priest can very consistently deal more than 6 damage every turn once Raza has also come down. I mean, if it wasn't for the combo of Velen and Mind Blast, the Warlock would stand a very good shot. And we saw that in the early days of Kazaka's Priest, when a fair few of the lists weren't running Velen and Mind Blast, and instead were going for things like Elise Trailblazer and stuff like that. But as it's become more and more ubiquitous that Velen and Mind Blast is the way to go, Warlock has really suffered in that matchup, which is why I can completely understand GeorgeC just saying, get it out of the way, as well as because it's just Razaka's Priest. It's just an insane deck at the moment. It makes sense to get rid of it. And of course, historically, huge burst damage has always been a Control Warlock's worst nightmare. The fact that Control Warlock used to be handlock, used to rely on Lord Jiraxxus. Jiraxxus has a maximum of 15 health. Can you imagine playing Jiraxxus against a Highlander Priest and living more than 2 turns? I can't. No. Yeah. No, nor can I. Basically just not going to happen. I mean, there have been lists where you run Jiraxxus and Blood Reaver Gul'dan and you hope to, I don't know, I don't even know which hero power you'd rather end up with. They're both absurdly broken. Yeah, and the problem is, as well, once you play Jiraxxus and then you play Gul'dan, I believe that 15 is still your maximum health. And you still have the extra 8 armor, but you can't heal above that, so they don't exactly synergize with one another. Yeah. Which is why we don't see Jiraxxus. Which is why we don't see them, yeah. I think that's probably the main thing to see here. But even then, you know, last time we saw GeorgeC with a Warlock, I was saying I'm expecting it to see Zoo, because that was when we were starting to see Zoo become more of a deck. But I think at this point, it feels like it's really found its spot in the meta, either with or without Blood Reaver Gul'dan. Just as... You know, the main thing I see when players tweet out about Zoo at the moment is, you know, don't especially bother teching it against Druid and Priest. Just hard mulligan for the Prince Keleseth and Flame Imp, and you'll probably just be winning that matchup because you're just destroying the early game. Let's jump into our second Hearthstone series of the day. We have TingTing versus the Shadow, the silhouette of GeorgeC. Ooh, very nice. I guess... Yeah, he's the mysterious one this time. You took the words right out of my mouth, Derek. But it is going to be the Pirate Warrior here, I guess. I was right again. Sorry, friendo. It's not going to be the Fatigue Warrior, but that's... I don't know. I mean, I wasn't expecting Fatigue Warrior. You were hoping. I was hoping for Fatigue Warrior. So while I wouldn't quite call myself wrong, I would call myself disappointed. Oh, you sound like my mum. You can call me wrong anyway. I will. But a pretty good start to get things going here. You know, opting for N'Zoth's first mate instead of Firefly, which does leave you more open to Galactic Crawler. But the thing is, in a Pirate Warrior, you're running so many pirates throughout your curve, no matter what mana slot you're on, that I think it's worth trying to bait it out now even. And obviously, if they don't have it, you're feeling pretty great.
But even just looking at the deck selection from GeorgeC, it's worth bringing up. This is the same very removal-heavy, very heal-heavy control anti-aggro Warlock.
Yeah, this is an awesome start for GeorgeC as well.
Insane.
When you look at the stat distribution on the board right now and how how that Voidwalker just ripped through those pirates, you've got the Mistress of Mixtures, which can trade with the 1/2s, and Gul'dan in the hand, not going to be useful just yet, but if we get to turn 10, there's no coming back for TingTing.
That's the thing. It's like having Ultimate Infestation in your hand as an early point as the Druid, because it doesn't do anything right now, but it's inevitability. Yeah. GeorgeC just has the safe, you know, the idea in his mind, as soon as I get to Blood Reaver Gul'dan, I'll have at least one Despicable Dreadlord, very likely 2 down. I'll wipe the board, heal for a bunch, and it's over.
Key difference between the Druid and the Warlock, though, is obviously the Druid can ramp up to that Ultimate Infestation very quickly. Gul'dan isn't quite as valuable in the opening, but still, based on this start we've seen here, with GeorgeC picking up his 4-mana taunt to curve straight into, it looks like he's in a very good spot to get to that turn 10.
Yeah, he's looking to be in a very good spot to get there, as you said, because now he's not only got powerful minions to play on curve, but with the Defile, he's also got stuff that he can actually just, you know, remove stuff off the board. So he's not really afraid of minions at the moment because he's got the removal. And he's not even afraid of weapons, which is the main thing he needs to be worried about at the moment. With the Reaper and the Greenskin, he can just stick taunt after taunt in the way.
All right, now TingTing, he has the means to remove or at least silence one taunt at one point.
Yeah.
So at the moment, going to go with a full-on tempo play, makes sense. Build your own Arcanite Reaper, then have another Arcanite Reaper to follow up with in a few turns' time. It's not looking as bad for TingTing anymore. But George does have removal if he can work out a decent Defile. And we're not that far away, are we? Hang on.
Yeah, that's the thing. You could see TingTing there was just thinking so hard, how do I play around Defile here? Because I play the Captain in. I've already got a 1 health and a 2 health minion. It's starting to get a little bit scary.
Earthen Ring into Defile was almost there. Wait, no, yeah, it was almost there.
Because there was the buff on the thing. But I think Defile procs anew every time it's cast, so that might have ended up with a clear on the Captain Greenskin at the end there. But yeah, going with the Dreadlord here makes sense. Even if it's eating up a charge of the 5/5, of the 5 attack weapon, sorry, you're kind of okay with that because it's not going towards your face. And as long as you're not dying, there's not even a shadow of a doubt that you're winning the value game.
There is a shadow of a GeorgeC, though.
Not even going to acknowledge that.
Okay.
Except to say it was dumb.
It was. I agree.
So,
how good's the Lich King in this matchup? Just thinking about that real quick. Obviously, it's an 8/8 taunt, which in itself is great. You got Death and Decay, that's good. Doom Pact, I guess, is good as well. I
mean, I think it's basically the 8/8 taunt that is the main thing here because, you know, you're winning. If that sticks, it doesn't matter if it has the effects or not. You're winning the game because that alone will be able to push enough damage or remove enough stuff to win the game. It's just whether enough a single taunt is good enough against Warrior because the Spellbreaker is very often run in these lists.
Oh, I love this. Mistress of... yeah, okay. Perfect. What a way of clearing the board. Yes, okay, he loses to Despicable Dreadlord as well, but... it's just so clean and Defile is such a fun card.
It is such a fun card.
When the numbers come together and create that board clear, wonderful things happen, Derek.
You love it when numbers come together.
I do. I really do.
Bitter-Dotted Hydra, definitely one of the cards that TingTing was looking for here, though, because it's looking very much at the moment with the, you know, how many taunts have been generated or just drawn by GeorgeC. Weapons alone aren't going to do it. He's going to have to seize the board here to actually be able to, you know, push enough damage to close out the game. But the thing is, even then, you know, just a taunt in the way on this turn will be enough to stall it. And then Twisting Nether, even if that's only hitting a Hydra, you're so happy here as GeorgeC. Yeah,
TingTing needs to seize that board to seize the day, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen in the long run here. GeorgeC just has... stop glaring at me.
No,
GeorgeC just about has what he needs to take this one down.
When you keep saying seize, I keep thinking you're going to go for a Communist Manifesto meme and go for seize the means of production, but clearly I've been spending too much time on the historical memes Reddit page.
In your tent?
Yeah.
Is that all you've got to do a week?
Yeah. I've just printed out each page of Reddit to read through.
Okay. Studio let you use their printers for that?
No, I just write it out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's an arduous process. It takes me the week to write it out, so I don't really get to read it. But yeah, I mean, here for GeorgeC, there's just nothing really to think about. You throw something in the way. Tapping, I mean, you just don't need to. Like, you could do it here and you'd probably be safe, but you've got everything you could possibly need at this point. You've got demons that will be summoned back by the Blood Reaver Gul'dan in the Despicable Dreadlord, and almost more importantly, the Void Walkers. Just those 1-mana taunts do such a great job.
And they deal 3 damage each every time they punch that Bittertoad Hydra.
Hopefully at that point it will be dead. But yeah, it's just still looking fantastic for GeorgeC. So I think I like not going for the tap here because it just blocks out any chance at all of maybe some ridiculous burst lethal coming in.
This looks like push time to me, though. We're going to drop that Spellbreaker immediately. We're going to sink 8 damage straight into that face. GeorgeC going to be down to 9 health. Well, yeah, down to 9 health.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit scary, but the thing is, with Destroy All Minions on this turn with the Twisting Nether, it has to be exactly Arcanite Reaper and...
Heroic Strike.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably not in the deck because I'm expecting it to be Keleseth, but I think just Arcanite Reaper and Korkron would close out the game, and that's about it. But I guess, you know, it's an out for TingTing. So nearly a good card here, and you probably save it. Actually... Yeah, I'm not sure if you do,
It's tricky, because the damage of the Cultist alone won't kill GeorgeC next time.
Yeah.
So in theory, if GeorgeC did clear the weapon, the minion being there is not going to help. In fact, because of the Siphon Soul pickup, that's a punish.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean,
obviously the Lich King would have come down regardless, but as far as TingTing knows, the reason GeorgeC got that heal was because he put that minion down.
I mean, you could argue that maybe GeorgeC... if he hadn't played it, GeorgeC would have been vulnerable to a second silence effect, but even then I just don't think that would really have happened because we could have just seen the Farseer on that turn to heal up out of range. And now with Blood Reaver Gul'dan able to come down, you summon back the Void Walkers, you gain a bunch of health. I just don't think at this point there's any way for GeorgeC to lose.
Yeah, 10 health, 1 pesky taunt.
Pesky's good enough here.
Yeah?
We like Pesky. And it's been pretty much perfect top decks for TingTing as well, with both Hydras being found, both Arcanite Reapers being found. He couldn't really have asked for any better hand in this situation.
Well, that Siphon Soul going to shut TingTing down. The Dirty Act can come down too, because why not? You can fit in the ping also. This is just game-ending, back-breaking for TingTing as George takes his win with the Control Warlock. Not one of the most common decks in this meta, but certainly one that can be the most powerful.
I think the thing is, with a Priest ban, I like this deck quite a lot, actually. It's, you know, because obviously it's going to struggle in that matchup because I doubt it's running Mountain Giants. I think that's probably where it finds the space for some of its more anti-aggro cards. But against the Druid, if you're running Skulking Geist, which I've got the suspicion he is, I seem to remember, even then, you've got a shot of winning the matchup.
Yep. Yeah, that matchup gets a little bit interesting, as do many of the Skulking Geist decks, where you have to draw it early before they've already created 6 Jade Golems and kind of done the work.
Sure.
But either way, GeorgeC taking that nice early win. He's still got to win with his Priest and his Druid. But come on, we're talking Priest and Druid here. They're 2 of the best decks in Hearthstone right now, if not the 2 single best decks in Hearthstone right now.
Yeah, and even then, you know, from the Pirate Warrior, I just don't like it that much as an aggressive deck in this format. I think Tempo Rogue and Tempo Mage are both better options at the moment. Just, you're not that able to stick a board early on. Galactic Crawler is run fairly widely at the moment, so we are going to see TingTing rotating over to his Murloc Paladin here, but he has actually got here one of those kinds of hands that could just blow out the game.
I'm curious as to how anti-aggro GeorgeC's Druid and Priest decks are, because obviously the Warlock is pretty anti-aggro, so you expect that he's gone in with this strategy. It looks like TingTing's lineup is just sheer aggro, so GeorgeC could just be favored off the back of that.
Yeah, he very, very could be, but the thing is, with an anti-aggro deck, yes, and this kind of does look like that from GeorgeC with the Greater Healing Potion, clearly a lot of health regain that is not too fashionable at the moment in Kazakus Priest. You know, you have to draw your removal, and against such an aggressive start, you know, most of the 1-drops have actually been found here at this point for TingTing. I just think even Kazakus on 4, if a War Leader or Gentle Megasaur is picked up anytime soon for TingTing, it might just be too slow.
I really like this start from TingTing playing around the Potion of Madness by choosing the 2 Murlocs that don't suffer at its hands, while Pyromancer is an anti-aggro card. It's obviously also very good for card draw with the Cleric and the Circle of Healing. But that card could be invaluable over the next few turns. Kazakus also is important, obviously.
The weird thing is for GeorgeC here is that if he knew he was in such a bad spot, at least in terms of falling behind early on, I think he might have kept the Wild Pyro here, because then he'd be thinking, if I am going to win this game, I kind of have to get Power Word Shield into silence off the top or something ridiculous like that to kind of swing an early board back in his favor. But the fact that he's throwing it down here does just mean he's going to get absolutely destroyed by Rockpool Hunter. And with no Potion of Madness, as you were saying, as the main weakness still in hand here, it's looking to be a really rough spot.
So does TingTing have to play around Potion of Madness is the thing to think about now. The thing is, you'd imagine if GeorgeC had Potion of Madness in his hand, he would have held onto the Pyromancer and used turn 3 as this huge blowout turn. So I don't necessarily think TingTing does have to play around Potion of Madness anymore.
I mean, so you need to evaluate what position you're in if it does come down and if it doesn't. I mean, okay, looking at this, how the situation's shaping out now, if it does come down, you're really far behind.
You lose the 2. You'd live with the 2-1 and that's
yeah, that would be absolutely devastating. But, you know, thankfully for his sake, it's not there. GeorgeC went for the chance of getting it by playing out the Novice Engineer first of all, obviously, hoping to draw it to be thrown down for 1 mana. And with now another super powerful, aggressive card, and no way to deal 1 damage to everything with either the Wild Pyro or Spirit Lash. Like I was saying, War Leader or Megasaur off the top probably just closes out the game.
Look at this hand and this board from TingTing. It's turn 3.
Yeah.
And the stats that he has on the board.
I mean, I guess he could throw out both 1-drops here if you want to be more aggressive. I don't know, you're already going to be blown out by Organize. Well, like, Organize Circle will basically push you out of the game no matter what, unless you get perfect top decks. So he's really just looking to push the most amount of damage as soon as possible before things like Pint-Sized Potion and Shadow Word Madness come, or yeah, Shadow Word Horror comes down, or the Dragonfire Potion on turn 6. And so this pushes an equal amount of damage, I would say. So going for the 3/3 body, probably a little bit better because it protects you a bit more against potential board clears with things like Spirit Lash.
Spirit Lash is pretty much the card that GeorgeC has to draw now.
Yeah.
With the Thanos, that's almost a board clear, and it obviously heals it back up. Potion of Madness is very helpful, though.
Yeah, you can't go for it now, though. Kazakus is too valuable. You have to eat up the damage. You've got the Greater Healing Potion in hand as GeorgeC, so he has the ability to kind of wrestle this back in his favor if he can get the board clear. But he does not hit it. So, he went for 5 mana and was punished for it.
So I'm making the mistake again by disagreeing with one of GeorgeC's plays here. But I would have thought maybe playing Potion of Madness that turn was fine. Next turn you play Kazakus, get the 1 mana potion. The 1 mana potion has a higher percentage chance of getting the board clear because there's no polymorph effect there.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe that was a way to go.
I think considering what you're seeing on board, I can definitely agree with you. But on the following turn, Megasaur messes up that plan. The Seer messes up that plan. The Blessing of Kings messes up that plan. There's a whole bunch of stuff that can really screw with what you're trying to do. So I probably like going for the what is almost a guaranteed board clear on the following turn with 5 damage AoE. But it really did not. Well, 5 mana AoE. Sorry, it really did not work out.
No, disappointing, very unfortunate for GeorgeC. He's still got the Potion of Madness next turn, which should deal with the 5/1 unless TingTing puts this Blessing of Kings in the right place here.
I mean, he can put it on any of them, and Potion of Madness. If he puts it on the Rockpool Hunter, there won't be a target.
Oh yeah, that's the best one.
Right, okay, yeah. You could put it on the Tidecaller, obviously, as just making 1 giant minion.
The 3/3 is the worst one, and that's the one it's going on.
So what's he thinking? It brings up to a 6/6, leaves it at 3/3. I think that was just a bad option.
Did you see that? He just raised his arms in anger, like he just realized what's happened. Priest of the Feast on the top, perfect to fit down with the Potion of Madness. Suddenly, GeorgeC is back in the game, and did we see what he did get from that potion? Was there a polymorph effect?
7 damage, draw 2 cards, 7 armor gain, sorry, and draw 2 cards, I believe. I mean, I think he's right in assuming that polymorph probably won't get the job done. Yeah, 7 armor, draw 2 cards. He needs to draw into some decent options if he wants to stand a chance.
Draw is actually often the best one in most matchups, especially if you can get the 4 damage board clear with the draw against the Paladin.
Small point, but unable to get the Geist down before the secret is played, so won't be able to destroy that from his opponent's hand.
Rip it out of his hand.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's a 1-mana, it's still a 1-mana spell, right? I know it doesn't work, but maybe
from the, well, it's in play.
Yeah. It says destroy one of spells regardless of where they are, right?
Well, it says in hand and deck. And
it doesn't say in hand and deck? Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't say wherever it is?
No, because then it would just obliterate the cards from existing in Hearthstone. The first time Skulking Geist is played, it just removes any memory of Shadow Word, of the Power Word Shield.
Do you know what? I think some people would be quite happy with that.
I think they probably would. No Jade Idol having ever existed. I'd take that. So going with, I think probably the best midway option here. If, he could have gone for Greater Healing Potion as just drawing regaining an insane amount of health. But like I said, you have to draw cards here. That's the only way you're coming back.
Just look at this beautiful turnaround from GeorgeC. It's such a sight to behold. We've got Thanos with Spirit Lash. That's going to heal him for 2 per minion hit.
Yeah.
He's just under no pressure whatsoever. This game looks to be his.
I mean, he is under
that's
pressure.
An exaggeration.
Yeah. There's still the 7/7 attacking in, and until Death, Anduin, or Silence is found, that's really going to be his, his biggest thing to worry about here. There is Anduin off the top, though. Doesn't quite work out with killing out the Tyrion at the same time, but I think it's a very, very high chance that we see Anduin coming down on the next turn anyway.
That Flame-Wreathed Faceless really is doing a lot of damage here.
I'm a War Golem man myself.
Very, very quick pick from GeorgeC. He's going to definitely want to play that Murloc before he plays Anduin, if at all.
Oh, yeah.
Is this going to get Wind Fury? No, you could see the frustration.
He should have attacked first. If he could have taken Wind Fury and Stealth as the 2 best. Well, actually, no. Okay, if you're expecting Anduin, then Stealth isn't actually even that good, is it?
No.
Maybe you should have gone for it anyway, because your opponent might have top-decked Shadow Word Death.
He really wanted that Wind Fury. He wanted to sink in the 14 damage.
I mean, if you attack first, you can get Wind Fury anyway.
Yeah. You just lose out on the attack buff if you get attacked. So there are a few things to think about when you make that play. But GeorgeC firmly in the driving seat of this game now.
I mean, the Shadow Word Death is just the main thing here. It's not superfluous at all. It gives him the ability to kill off the Tyrion here. Kind of needs to be scared because there's obviously, the 15 damage from the Ashbringer. But with the pretty nice inclusion of Greater Healing Potion, I still like this card in this deck, especially if you're expecting to see aggro opponents. Well,
GeorgeC spoiled for choice here. Does he just Death Tyrion, Greater Healing Potion up? He doesn't strictly need to play Greater Healing Potion yet. I guess he can be a little bit afraid of... He can be a little bit afraid of Sunkeeper Tarium if he doesn't want to leave these 1/1s alive.
That's fair. Yeah, that's the only thing he's going to be considering here. And so he kind of wants to play the Valfin for the extra activation of hero power.
He definitely does not want to play the Valfin.
However, the change of the hero power is definitely the main thing, which is why he's throwing down.
That would be a pretty major mistake.
Yeah, I'm glad he read the text on that very, very common card.
All right, Stonehill Defender.
Yeah, I mean, another Tyrion here.
Or Tyrion, yeah.
Ooh. Soggoth. There is absolutely no way for the... Oh, no, sorry. Pint-Sized Potion Shadowed Horror is the only way for the Priest to get rid of it at this point because Anduin has been played and it can't be targeted by hero powers. Yep. That's pretty good.
That's pretty devastating. TingTing is going to go for the regular play, the less flashy play, the more standard play that's going to get you to the finish line a little bit more often, I think.
Yeah.
Just the fact that it's going to give you another 15 damage after it dies makes Tyrion a worthwhile pick, I think.
Yeah, Tyrion is definitely the pick here, I agree. But it was just worth considering because it's one of those weird things where, in the vein of Mindbreaker, it's denying so much value from the Priest's hero power because it just can't be targeted.
Side note, GeorgeC can rip that Redemption out of TingTing's hand now if he wants to.
Plays.
But I don't think...
That's actually not bad.
I don't think it's the way to go. I think now GeorgeC has to play the Greater Healing Potion. In fact, what's going on here then?
Well, I think he's just, valuing killing off as many minions as he... not killing off as many minions as he can, but getting a target that will hopefully soak up 5 damage from the Ashbringer anyway. He's playing it expecting to die, but I think he's just mostly okay with that.
2 unplayable cards in hand for GeorgeC. The Shadow Form and the Valve Inquisitor would both be a bit of a disaster.
My question with this play... Oh, no, sorry. My question with this play isn't that he should have been playing around Tarim, because if Tarim had been picked off the defender, it would have been played on the same turn. So I think he's fairly certain here that it's not Sunkeeper Tarim.
TingTing is 5 off lethal, and GeorgeC has no healing hero power, and he's just used Greater Healing Potion. The Bone Mare can buff up one of the minions, and yeah, push GeorgeC down to 5.
Priest of the Feast is gone as well.
Yeah, right. So while
Kazakus, every piece of armor gain or health gain probably gone.
While it looks like GeorgeC had this beautiful turnaround and Spirit Lash, we're just listing all of these used up healing spells. GeorgeC needs to win this game and fast, and he's still not drawn Raza yet.
And this is why I was saying, you know, throughout this cast so far, I like a top-heavy Murloc Paladin deck with double Stonehill, double, you know, Tyrion, double Bone Mare, Curator, Tarim, all this good stuff. It feels like it can really get the job done against Priest. But when it gets just on time, the Dragonfire Potion, it's a little bit more juicy for the Priest here.
That is incredibly juicy right now, and exactly what GeorgeC needed. As TingTing made the trade into the Lyra, preventing GeorgeC from fishing and digging for whatever healing spells he can pick up, that Dragonfire Potion was very important. Valen plus Mind Blast is 10 damage. Valen plus Mind Blast plus Holy Smite, if that gets picked up, is 14 damage. We're still not there yet.
Tyrion and Redemption is just absurd here.
Yeah, and that Geist still not played.
The Geist, yeah, I mean, they're just... You know, it's not a fault from GeorgeC. He had no time to play it. The Lyra, I think, was definitely the play on the previous turn with the Greater Healing Potion, but it's going to massively suck here. Silence, you know, there's still a 6/6 on the board that you've kind of got to kill.
Yeah, GeorgeC looks devastated right now in his shadowy goodness. You can see the emotion on his face.
The tears streaming down his face as he cries, Darragh, where did I go wrong? Teach me how to be good at Hearthstone.
Well, George, you went wrong with the Potion of Madness turn, and I'm stopping right there. I don't mean it! I don't mean it! Don't pick on me.
The thing is, okay,
I'm so getting tweeted at later.
Potion, I agree with his play, but it could have ended up much worse for him if TingTing had played a bit more heavily around the Potion of Madness. And like, to TingTing's favor, you know, it hadn't come down on one of the earlier turns where it would have been pretty good. Well, actually, it would have been insanely good and definitely would have come down on the Rockpool Hunter to kill off the Tidecaller earlier on. But he still didn't play it around on the top deck, and there was no real reason not to outside of, I guess, you lose 1/1 extra stats off the Shadow Word Pain, but it was definitely, I think, worth it.
You know, TingTing made some funny plays that game as well. There were times where he made a play that immediately kind of raised his arms in rage to say, yep, I shouldn't have done that. He knew they weren't the best players all the way through. It looked like GeorgeC made his comeback, but no. TingTing managed to take it in the end anyway. And that's just the top-heavy Paladin, as you've been talking about all broadcast. Paladin just has this ability to start dealing damage and then keep dealing damage. Would Soggoth the Slitherer have been lethal? Would that have won in the game? I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, he could have gone Soggoth and the Redemption as well, still, to, you know, still get a really sticky minion on the board. I mean, it probably would have worked out exactly the same. The thing is, it doesn't really matter. Now that you've seen Anduin and Death, I guess you're slightly less vulnerable to silence if you go with the Soggoth, but it's just overall going to be a much higher damage play. And so here, GeorgeC, was that a keep of Pint-Sized Potion and Shadow Word Horror? I think it might have been with the way that the new mulligan screen works.
That's pretty juicy. Against Jade Druid, it's sort of like having an extra Dragonfire Potion.
Yeah.
But one you kind of want to play a little bit sooner, because with Dragonfire Potion, you can combo Thalnos, you can combo Spirit Lash to deal with 6 or 7 health Jade Golems. But you kind of have a hard cap at the 5 attack ones here, unless you Shadow Vision's a second Pint-Sized Potion, which of course George can't do because he's already drawn it.
I mean, the thing is, this is a play around your opponent just curving out perfectly with Jade Golems, and it's also a play saying, I've already got a pretty good hand. Loot Hoarder and Kazakus are 2 fantastic options to find here. But the thing is, if your opponent instead goes for the game plan of ramping as quickly as they can to Ultimate Infestation, which you're very often going to be doing as the Jade Druid, it's a lot worse, because in that instance, you just want every single piece of card draw you can possibly get, as well as Raza and Anduin. But this is me again saying I was looking away at the mulligan screen when it was actually happening. But it's an interesting keep if he did choose it.
Now, TingTing's hand has worked out quite nicely for this turn. He can Wrath away the Acolyte and still ramp up with Jade Blossom. Problem is, he doesn't have any card draw yet.
Yeah, I'm looking at swipe here. There's nothing in particular you're ramping to on the following turn. Like, you know, if you had Medivh in hand, yeah, sure, you throw out the Jade Blossom and the Wrath, but because you've got plenty of time, it would seem, at the moment, just going with the playing, I don't know, just the most expensive card, because if an Ultimate Infestation does come down, you want your hand to be as cheap as possible so you can just start dumping stuff out.
One of the most interesting things about Highlander Priest and Jade Druid at the moment is they both have so many flex spots, so many cards that different players are trying different things with. I mean, look at the Priests and all the successful versions of the deck that have been running Gadgetzan Auctioneer recently. Binding Heal instead of the Greater Healing Potion. Druid, Power of the Wild in Jade Druid. That used to be unheard of, but recently we've been seeing quite a bit of it. We've been seeing some Enchanted Ravens and some various things, kind of making it more of a mid-rangey early curving deck.
I mean, the newest tech we're seeing in Kazakus Priest is Giant Wasp over the Pint-Sized Potion Shadow Word Horror combo.
That's amazing. I've not seen that one.
You've not seen that one. It's very good. It started off with the Cold Light Oracle and the Curator, but now I think it was Fino just playing Giant Wasp. Don't quote me on that. It might have been someone else. But yeah, I think it's a pretty cool inclusion to have, because we saw in that game from GeorgeC, he really wanted another Shadow Word Death. And Giant Wasp, just as a terrible Shadow Word Death, it's still pretty good.
Yeah? It's a Shadow Word Death that can hit 4 attack minions.
Ah, there you go.
I don't think that's very terrible.
So TingTing clearly signed up to the Deathsea school of thought in that Savage Roar is the way forward. Anytime you hear or question Deathsea in Twitch chat over his inclusion of Savage Roar in his Jade Druid, he will defend it to the hilt. And clearly, he's won TingTing over.
Yeah. And now, do you think GeorgeC is going to be considering it? Or could that just be a surprise kill later on?
I mean, he might be considering. He got killed by, he got lost a game against Deathsea last time he played because of exactly Savage Roar just bursting him out.
He'd be pretty frustrated if he loses for the same reason again.
That would be pretty sad. He'd give out a pretty Savage Roar himself.
He was very clearly looking at Lyra, Quinn, Kazakus Potion to buff up the health and make Lyra all but unkillable. It does seem tempting, but looks like he wants to play a more secure Lyra later on.
I mean, the thing is, playing it now is nice because it's a turn before Ultimate Infestation, but he hasn't actually seen anything to indicate an Ultimate Infestation so far. You know, every ramp card TingTing has had, you keep off the mulligan anyway, and you play as soon as you can anyway.
Okay, I am very surprised to see this. Coin hero power, especially with just how important the coin is for this deck. Well,
clearly just was at 10 cards, so didn't want to end up burning a card. So could have just thrown out the silence, which I'm going to be honest, is probably the play I would have made, because Lyra is in hand and you kind of want to be throwing out as many spells at the same time as you can.
I hadn't noticed the hand size was so full, but pointing that out, I guess it doesn't make too much of a difference which one you throw out. Silence, maybe GeorgeC's saving that for Aya.
Yeah. That's obviously the thing you're trying to hit. And the thing is, though, he's already got a pretty good hand against an Aya kind of, you know, eventuality. With the Pint-Sized Potion and Shadow Word Horror, he can deal with, you know, decently sized Jades right now. What he's left himself more vulnerable to on this play is Ultimate Infestation, because just throwing down the Lyra, it's just so likely. Well, if there is an Ultimate Infestation, it's very likely to die. And now there was the Nourish for card draw on the previous turn. It means there's actually a pretty respectable chance that the UI is there.
Yeah, George is also really suffering with his hand size. Like Lyra plus Power Word Shield, I think he mills a card. Lyra plus Kazakus Potion, he mills a card again that way. So yeah, he's set himself up for a really weird turn. Maybe he just has to drop Lyra. Drop Lyra pass.
Oh, he's just going with the Kazakus Potion right now. I think he is probably correctly giving up on the dream of having Lyra stick, because the thing is, the way his hand is shaped at the moment, he doesn't have enough mana to do everything he wants to do, because Pint-Sized Potion Shadow Word Horror sets up for a Lyra on the following turn. The thing is, your opponent's likely to just play a whole bunch of stuff before then. If he'd had the Doomsayer in hand, I think he probably would have tried to keep the dream alive, because then you can go Pint-Sized Potion, Shadow Word Horror, Doomsayer all on the same turn, and set up for the most insane Lyra you've seen in a very long time.
But this is going to be a pretty insane Ultimate Infestation, potentially. Problem is, TingTing does mill a card if he plays Ultimate Infestation here.
Yeah, that's not really your biggest consideration. I think it's just the fact that he can play Aya in combination with the Savage Roar here. Just, I mean, not get it out of your hand, because the Savage Roar is pretty good here, but the thing is, as a Jade Druid against a Priest, you're probably going to be overkilling them by a huge amount anyway, because you'll be having a very respectable board, probably like 6/6, 7/7, 8/8 Jades. So it's not the most valuable card in this particular matchup, I would say.
Oh, it's pretty tricky turn. Because that Ultimate Infestation is going to be the way forwards. And as you say, milling a card really is not the end of the world. I don't believe we've seen a Jade Idol yet, so even if that goes, it doesn't really make any difference towards the late game. We do know that GeorgeC's Priest runs Skulking Geist, because we saw it
Yeah, that's a good point. So maybe he's trying to find his Jade Idols as quickly as he can.
But he never played it, so TingTing does not know that GeorgeC's Priest runs Skulking Geist, which is actually very important.
So for TingTing here, I mean, the reason he's going for Ultimate Infestation is, I mean, I probably would have gone with Aya and Savage Roar because of the fact that you're playing a strong turn now. But the thing is, he had a guaranteed target to hit with his Ultimate Infestation and going for the Doomsayer. Maybe on this turn, he would have been in a position where the Ultimate Infestation just hits only phase, which isn't quite as good.
That's such a sad mill for TingTing, but at the end of the day, he just has to pretend that it was on the bottom of his deck. Because that's all. As long as he doesn't get a fatigue, that's all it was. Mediva's on the bottom of the deck.
So I believe there's 23 damage available now with 10 on board. Another 8 from the Savage Roar, 18. 4 from the Mark of the... Oh, sorry, 3 from the Mark of the Lotus. So 21 damage overall. Which is pretty nuts if you did want to go for it on this turn. The thing is, if you play any more minions, you're so likely to be facing a board clear at this point, be it Dragonfire or pint-sized Shadow Word Horror.
It's so close. He can fit in the hero power as well that turn if he wants to. So the reason I like holding on to the Savage Roar is because it's such a surprising win condition. Like, with the Priest not knowing it's in the deck, GeorgeC could feel pretty safe. He could have the option to clear, decide not to because he thinks he's safe. They just lose by surprise. So I actually do like that TingTing's held onto it for so long. And now, GeorgeC is going to have to work really hard to clear this out.
So I think this is mostly a good play by TingTing, because the thing is, there are 2 cards on the left that GeorgeC has had from the start of the game and he hasn't played, which makes you think Anduin. Maybe like Velen as well, but more likely just Anduin is the main thing you're expecting to see there. And so he's trying to set up for the best turn he can possibly do against Anduin, which is basically a hand that, a couple things die, but Savage Roar closes out the game.
This turn also beats Pint-Sized Potion and Shadow Word Horror.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I think he's probably not expecting that quite so heavily as Anduin. And the thing is, with this play, he would be left with a 3/3, a 4/4, and a 4/4 on the board on the following turn, which is 11 plus 8. It's easily lethal. Oh, maybe not with the armor gained, but he could set up for a lot of damage coming in on this turn. So I think mostly I like this play.
Wow. And yeah, as I was saying a moment ago, if George does go with Lyra here, not only is he running a little bit late, but he's going with a play that only deals with 1 minion or 2 minions at the most, and then Savage Roar just blindsides him.
I mean, he's just trying to make, like you said, the fact that TingTing is probably coincidentally, maybe it crossed his mind, played around Shadow Word, Pint-Sized Potion, Shadow Word Horror, has just won him the game now. 2 weeks in a row where GeorgeC is just blown out by Savage Roar.
Not going to be happy about that.
Oh, this has got to be sending him flashbacks from both the Savage Roar and Force of Nature days. I've forgotten the name of the combo. I probably repressed it and we brought out in therapy years later. But also just nightmares of last week where he lost the same loss against Deathsea.
Oh boy, I wish we could see his face. At times like this, I do wish we could see his face. GeorgeC, of course, one of the most prestigious players in the United Kingdom. I believe this is his first journey into the Prem. But he's also playing in Trinity Series at the moment in Team Misfits, I believe.
That's right.
So he really does get out a lot. Obviously, he was representing us in the Hearthstone Global Games. And for someone as young as him, he has a lot of achievements behind him. Yeah, he really does. And going 7-0 in the qualifiers to make it through to the ESL Prem, he was really looking to be, in a position where he's going, I'm off competing in HCT and all that stuff. I'll give the ESL Prem a go, and then just dominates the whole thing.
But it's looking less and less like that at the moment. 2-1 down. He's not necessarily going to be going down to a 1-2 scoreline. As you said, he's still got Priest and Druid, two absolutely fantastic decks, probably the best decks in the format at the moment, so it's far from over, especially because it is, what I would argue, the weakest deck left for TingTing.
Pirate Warrior. At the same time, it's one of these decks which can just have a blowout start.
That's every deck.
A win. That is a lot of decks at the moment, but Pirate Warrior, it feels like one of the decks that's most likely to do that. Druids, for example, hate Bittertide Hydra.
They do.
He's got it against the Priest at the moment, but it's no picnic for a Priest to deal with either. There's only one Shadow Word Death in this deck.
I mean, we saw in the last time that Bittertide Hydra came down for TingTing, it wasn't quite getting the job done against the Warlock, but that's because it's got, you know, Twisting Nether as well as the Siphon Souls, just doing a fantastic job of killing them off. From the Priest, it's unlikely they'll be able to get so far ahead on board they'll be able to deal with it with minions. So like you said, it's going to have to be Shadow Word Death in a very timely manner. But the thing is, for the moment, very respectable draw hand to possibly get him to that point.
Yeah, I mean, GeorgeC, like with his game against the Paladin, does seem to have the start to counter it. But the Paladin did come back, and now there's a second Bittertide Hydra. What did I just say about the amount, the quantity of Shadow Word Deaths in GeorgeC's deck? I think I said it was less than 2.
Un. Uno? As the French would say. As the Spanish would say, uno. Do you want to know what the Germans would say?
Tell me.
Ein.
Oof.
Do you want to know what the Koreans would say?
Go on.
Hannah.
I actually knew that.
Did you know that?
I used to do taekwondo.
So did I.
Oh.
Yellow tag.
Oh, I actually got black belt.
Shout out to Sensei Howard.
Okay, back to Hearthstone. Our current martial art, as some would say. TingTing can coin out one of his 3 drops if he wants to. The Sassy Captain must be quite appealing. He gets patches as well, but you're shaking your head at me. Yeah,
I think Hydra into Hydra is just too strong. Upgrade on this turn is, you know, pretty good. The thing is, going for, like, Captain now, you're leaving yourself open to mainly the Curious Glimmeru is the main thing you're afraid of here. Cabal, the Cabal Talon Priest probably isn't the deck, in the deck. Shadow Word Pain as well. The thing is, for the Bittertide Hydra, I think there's just basically nothing you're afraid of. If the first one comes down and it's death, so what? You throw down the other one, you're still miles away from Anduin. I think that was the winning line.
Well, TingTing gonna have to live by that now. He's managed to grasp a pretty decent turn here, thanks to the Dread Corsair top deck. If the 3-3 survives into next turn, which it looks like it will, then the Blood Cell Cultist gets good as well. This weapon is starting to spiral out of control, and then TingTing can still go 8-8 into 8-8. Meanwhile, GeorgeC,
with a nuts potion here, 4 damage to everything and 5 damage to a single target available, does clear off a Hydra as well as whatever other detritus is left on the board at the same time. That's what I'm expecting to see from this potion, if we can get a look at it here, but that is not necessarily the only thing he could have gone for. He was really hesitating with the second option, it would seem. Summon a 5-5 Demon was the other option he went for. Clearly not expecting the Hydra in this instance. I mean, it's still not bad against Hydra because you get a 5-5 on the board. Maybe you can find the damage to close it out with something like a Holy Smite over the top. And just because he wanted to play that on turn 5, I guess it was unlikely the 5 damage would be useful actually at that point.
He's definitely seen Bittertide Hydras already because he beat this deck earlier on with his Warlock, and the Hydras were played then. So, yeah, I mean, I guess he got this 5-5 to contest with. Dragonfire Potion can clear the board if he wants to, but it feels bad.
I think you just spam your draw options here, like Loot Hoard and Gnomish Inventor. The Acolyte of Pain, the opponent's weapon is at 3 attack, so it's not going to be surviving a swing from the weapon. So, yeah, probably just Loot Hoard and Gnomish Inventor. Try and find cards like the Shadow Word Death to kill off the Hydra here. Obviously, Anduin would be good, Raza would be good. You've seen Spirit Lash, which would be good at this point. Just, you know, some better cards. This is not going to be getting the job done at this point. But maybe he does think it's worth it. I mean, if there is no... I'm struggling here still from cast division. It's hard to pretend I don't know that there's the Bittertide Hydra there as I just obscure the top half of the screen with my hand. Because maybe then you do go with the Dragonfire Potion because you're expecting maybe this is all the minion pressure I'm likely to see. I could possibly close out the rest of the minions with a Shadow Word Pain if it's just Keleseth and Fireflies and things, or Shadow Word Horror, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, again, I also have that curse where I can see that putting minions on the board, drawing more cards, just appears to be the better play in this situation. GeorgeC opts for the Dragonfire Potion in the end. The second Hydra is going to come down next turn. And GeorgeC needs to get Shadow Word Death or he is in a world of pain.
So the thing is, he's put himself in a spot where Shadow Word Death does actually take the game back into his favor. Beforehand, it was definitely the case that was not going to be possible at all because there were two Hydras would have been doing just too much damage. Now a top deck of the Shadow Word Death does obviously do that, but he has to find it very soon, or maybe his Greater Healing Potion, something like that. These are some respectable cards here, and just going all out with the draw. Yeah, throw down the Acolyte of Pain because it's the most expensive.
The next turn you can draw again with the shield.
Yeah, and it might get you 3 health if the weapon swing comes in. It very likely will, actually. Which is good. You just want all damage to be going not to your face.
Yeah, TingTing's still not quite got lethal yet. In fact, even Leroy Jenkins wouldn't be lethal here. So GeorgeC, maybe he's breaking a little bit of a sweat here. Of course, we can't exactly tell. Maybe. He really needs to install some lights into his room or something. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, he's very still. I hope he's not just completely frozen with fright at the Bittertide Hydra.
I mean, I know that the players have been judged pretty harshly on their rooms, but really is turning the lights out the way to...
He's just, you know the horse picture he has behind him? I think he's developing a new theory a la the Weeping Angels in Doctor Who. Just, you know, if I can't see it...
There's a Shadow Word Death, sort of.
There's a big Shadow Word Death with cool hair to match.
It does the job, right?
It does the job better than Shadow Word Death here, to be honest. Well, maybe not, because you'd like to go for the Shadow Word Pain on the same turn, but you get what you're given. If you are bailed out with a way to kill off the Hydra and gain 5 armor at the same turn, you absolutely go for that. It does mean that Prophet Velen and healing your own face is no longer an option. And because TingTing's going so wide on the board, it's worth taking a look at least as to whether Shadow Word Horror would keep you safe now that Dirty Rat is just a 2/6 taunt. 100%.
Oh, you definitely have to consider that. Because, so Shadow Word Horror, Dirty Rat, Powered Shield on the Rat.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it doesn't, even without the Power Word Shield, it survives from swinging with the weapon and the cultist.
Yeah, that's true. The weapon's 2 attack, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So if you do go with the Anduin on this turn, let's say, there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 9 damage on the board. You're up to 15. 4 damage does not kill you at that point.
Sacrifice
That's
all future
the main
healing.
break point. Okay. You are sacrificing future healing, but you've got Rat into Power Word Shield, which is a nice way to get things going. You've still got Greater Healing Potion and Priest of the Feast in your deck.
That's sort of like 8 health, isn't it?
Yeah,
the Dirty Rat here.
I think this is probably the way to go, especially because pings are probably going to be more valuable because clearing the board is of your utmost concern.
Now, that Frothing Berserker is going to come down here, and unfortunately, it's not going to die to Shadow Word Horror. I expect that TingTing will probably put the Frothing Berserker on 4 attack.
Maybe...
Maybe he wants to play around Pint Size Potion Shadow Word Horror, and no, actually, he can't do that. He can't put it at more than 4.
Well, no, because he can attack into face a bunch of times, which buffs up as well. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of... yeah, you're right. Just the fact that you can only get that for it. Not that card, yeah, right you are.
So, let's see, Horror leaves alive the Pirate and the Frothing, and obviously the weapon stays there.
I mean, even here, you can just go, Horror. Ping, Horror, ping. There's no way to kill off the... cultist here, but the thing is, because you can just throw down the Dirty Rat with the 2 remaining mana, so I think that's the only play you can go for.
So you ping once, right? You ping the 3/2 and then you play a Dirty Rat.
Oh, okay. I mean, I was looking at double ping the Frothing Berserker and then play Dirty Rat with your 1 remaining mana. Oh no, sorry, you only have 9 mana. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I'm back with you.
You're back in the room where Frothings only get buffed with minion combat.
And the thing is here, you can still throw down the Power Word Shield at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the main benefit, okay. Yeah, I think you're still okay with this play. It's just, you know, what else can you possibly do? You need the taunt right now.
Yeah, if TingTing does find a way to deal with the taunt with the other minions, that can be a problem because the frothing could get buffed out of range. In fact,
the shadows grow short.
So if you go Rat and Power Word Shield, that's 3 mana, which means you have 6 mana remaining for 4 pings of the hero power, and I think that's what he's lining up to do.
Okay, I totally missed this play.
Yeah.
Oh, this is much better.
Well, it kind of is, and it kind of isn't. You're basically saying, I'm not going to be playing Shadow Word Horror anytime soon. I'm just relying all in on this taunt keeping me alive. But the thing is, with the other play, you are still 100% relying on Spellbreaker not being the top card.
Yeah, but there was also the fact that if TingTing drew a method of dealing just a little bit more damage to the rat, the frothing would have buffed itself up or smacked in the face and won immediately. I think this play is just a touch safer than the previous one. Obviously, he's still got the horror, and if TingTing opts not to make the trades this turn, that's going to get a lot of value.
Right. I think, yeah, you're right. It's just Hearthstone fundamentals. Even when you know how Frothing Berserker works, which apparently I don't, it's just even more important to kill it off as quickly as possible.
Apologies. GeorgeC is not going to be playing horror, obviously. Dirty Rat on the board.
Yeah. He doesn't want to play that now.
Oh, hello, Pint-Sized Potion. You're a little bit late.
Yeah, this, like I said, you know, the Shadow Word Horror is just accepting that it's never going to be played here.
Yep.
I mean, at this point, you can go... I mean, the Pint-Sized Potion is not bad just to activate the Wild Pyro. I'm kind of looking if it's makes any big breakpoints here. It does mean you only have to invest 1 ping into the Dread Corsair, but the downside is obviously you're damaging your own Dirty Rat. And most of these minions are still at 2 health, but it looks like he's going to be going for it here anyway.
I like it. Gets rid of his first mate as well.
Yeah.
You can still fit in 1 more ping, if not 2.
Throwing down a Death Rattle minion at the same time. Yep, this is definitely the way to go. You just need to find the Greater Healing Potion as quickly as you possibly can, or the Priest of the Feast.
That could help.
That is fantastic to find. Okay, he's going for it right now. I think you probably go for it on the following turn. Fitting in the ping now is more important because Shadow Visions and Greater Healing Potion is 6 mana on the following turn, so you can still go, still fit in 2 pings. Doesn't think it's worth it though, wants to get the extra damage into everything.
Got a Shadow Word Death, but both Bittertide Hydras are gone now. There's Captain Greenskin, I guess.
Woof.
Oh. Okay. This is getting dicey. So the Corcoran deals with
so close.
And then the weapon can hit face over the next 2 turns for 4 damage.
But the thing is, there's lethal pushing towards TingTing with just Velen and Hero Power on the following turn. Kill off your own Northshire, whatever, you don't care. Just try to set up lethal as quickly as possible with Mind Blast as well. This is the play. You just pray your opponent can't kill you on the following turn because you have no defensive measures whatsoever.
Okay.
So you just got to look at the numbers here.
Do you ever consider Thalnos and ping the Thalnos? It's horrible because it uses up 4 mana, but then if you get the Greater Healing Potion, you just win the game.
So the thing is, you're weighing up the odds of you getting a Greater Healing Potion now versus your opponent getting 2 damage on the next turn. Your opponent's probably more likely to get 2 damage on the following turn, but you're so unlikely to find Greater Healing Potion as the top card. And that's going to close out the game. TingTing brings himself 3 games to 1 with a top tech of Corcoran Elite. He goes 2-1 in series so far. So close for GeorgeC, but he just cannot get there with this Priest.
Unbelievable that Warlock. GeorgeC got just an easy win with Control Warlock and then could not get there with the Priest or the Druid. So yeah, unfortunately for GeorgeC,